The sudden snap of a toy, accidentally broken, cuts through the lazy afternoon quiet. The laughter abruptly stills. A shadow flickers across the father's face as he watches Sarah playing, a look of profound anxiety tightening his jaw before it vanishes, replaced by a practiced calm. The year is 2000, the air outside thick with the lazy hum of summer, promising a bright, uncomplicated future. Inside, a fragile tension hums beneath the polished surface of this seemingly perfect family life. Sarah, their vibrant 7-year-old daughter, is twirling in the sun-drenched living room, her bright dress a blur of motion, oblivious to the fleeting disturbance. Her mother, Emily, is watching from the doorway, a gentle smile playing on her lips, but a certain weariness subtly etching lines around her kind eyes. Thomas, the father, stands by the window, his broad shoulders slightly slumped, his gaze distant for a moment too long before he forces a cheerful expression back onto his face. This house, their home for the past 5 years, is nestled comfortably on a quiet tree-lined street, feeling like a warm, lived-in sanctuary. Its rooms are filled with the scent of baking bread and worn books, the walls displaying Sarah's colorful drawings, a fortress built of shared moments and deep love. But even the strongest fortresses have hidden weak points, vulnerabilities they desperately try to ignore. If you've ever felt that unsettling feeling that something is just off, even when everything looks fine, hit like and let us know in the comments what you would do. Sarah is now kneeling on the rug, meticulously arranging her colorful plastic animals. Sunlight streams through the large bay window, illuminating dust motes dancing in the air, catching the gold threads in the worn armchair where Emily often reads. The house breathes around them, the gentle tick-tock of the grandfather clock in the hall, the faint sound of a neighbor's lawnmower through open windows, the soft thud of Thomas moving in the kitchen. Thomas is now pouring 3 glasses of iced tea, his hands steady, but his movements a touch too deliberate. He is a man who values order, control, perhaps too much. His mind is often racing, calculating, preparing for unseen threats. Emily watches him from the doorway, a knowing look in her eyes. She understands his burdens, the quiet weight he carries, the pressure he puts on himself to protect their world. Her own strength lies in her empathy, her ability to nurture, though the constant vigilance required to maintain their peace is slowly draining her spirit. She smooths down her simple summer dress, a small sigh escaping her lips, almost inaudible. Sarah giggles, holding up a plastic lion for inspection. Thomas brings the drinks into the living room, his forced smile widening as he hands one to Sarah, kneeling beside her. He ruffles her hair, his touch tender, possessive. This bond, this fiercely protected circle of 3, is everything to them. But the outside world feels increasingly volatile, a storm gathering just beyond their carefully constructed haven. The evening news is flickering on the screen in the corner, its volume low, murmuring about distant conflicts, economic shifts, a world spinning faster. Thomas's gaze drifts towards it, his brow furrowing imperceptibly. The happy silence in the room thickens, becoming heavy with unspoken fears. The gentle light outside is beginning to fade, casting long shadows across the lawn, creeping towards the house. The afternoon sun is starting its slow descent, painting the sky in hazy oranges and purples. But inside the house, a cold dread is spreading. Sarah isn't on the porch swing. She isn't building sandcastles by the old oak tree. Her mother, Claire, is stepping out the back door, a glass of lemonade in her hand, her brow furrowing. She's calling Sarah's name, her voice light at first, then with a touch of impatience. No answer. Her father, David, is coming around the side of the house, wiping his hands on his jeans, a question forming on his lips. Claire's voice is rising now, sharper, laced with a nascent fear. "Sarah! Sarah! Where are you?" They are fanning out, checking the usual spots: the treehouse, the small patch of woods behind the garden shed, the neighbor's yard where she sometimes plays with the dog. The minutes are stretching, elastic bands pulled taut, threatening to snap. Panic is beginning its insidious crawl, cold and sharp under Claire's skin. She's moving faster now, calling louder, her breath catching in her throat. David is shouting, his voice strained, a mirror of her own escalating terror. They are circling the house again, their eyes scanning frantically, seeing only empty space where their daughter should be. The lemonade glass slips from Claire's fingers, shattering on the patio stones, the sound sharp and final. This isn't right. She's always here. The search expands. Neighbors are stepping onto their porches, drawn by the frantic calls. Their faces are shifting from curiosity to concern as Claire and David explain, their voices trembling. More people are joining the search, their movements a chaotic dance of worry through yards and down the quiet street. Hours are dissolving. A vibrant sunset is fading to twilight, then to a bruised, deep blue. The initial confusion is curdling into a sickening certainty. The police are arriving, their cruiser's lights flashing silently in the growing darkness, casting long, unsettling shadows. Officers are asking questions, their faces calm, but their eyes holding a professional gravity that screams serious. Claire is recounting the last time she saw Sarah, her words tumbling out, disjointed and breathless. David is showing them the perimeter of the yard, his hands shaking. The air is growing colder, carrying the scent of damp earth and blooming night-blooming jasmine, a cruel contrast to the internal landscape of fear. Officers are walking the property with flashlights, their beams cutting through the darkness, illuminating empty spaces, confirming the absence. A knot is tightening in Claire's stomach, a physical manifestation of the dawning horror. This isn't just a child hiding. This is something else entirely. The sun is long gone now, and the chilling realization is settling in. Sarah is gone. The world outside might continue its spin, but their world has stopped, frozen in this agonizing moment of profound loss and unanswered questions. The empty swing set creaks faintly in the rising wind, a silent sentinel to the void she has left behind. The air hangs thick, tasting of dust and forgotten time. 23 years are pressing down on this house, on the sagging rooflines and the quiet, unmoving furniture. Sunlight slices through grimy panes, illuminating moats, dancing in a perpetual performance of stillness in the hallway where small footsteps used to run. A thin film coats every surface, a physical manifestation of the stasis that gripped this place the moment silence replaced laughter. The child's room remains a shrine, untouched, the bedspread smooth, the toys frozen mid-play. This is no longer a home. It is a monument, meticulously preserving the shape of a life abruptly ended. She is standing by the window in the living room, her fingers tracing patterns on the condensation that isn't there. Years ago, the pain was a screaming thing, tearing through her days and nights. Now it is a deep ache, a constant low hum beneath the surface of everything. Hope, once a fierce ember, has long since turned to cold ash in her chest. She thinks of the frantic searches, the whispered prayers that turned to bitter dust. She feels a vast emptiness where her future used to be, a landscape of what-ifs and never-will-bes. Her gaze drifts across the room to him. He sits in his armchair, the same one, the fabric worn smooth under his hands. He is holding a small wooden carving, something the child made clumsy hands ago. His jaw is set, his eyes fixed on a point in the middle distance that exists only in his memory. The shared burden of their loss has not drawn them closer. It has carved a chasm between them. They exist in parallel universes of grief, unable to bridge the distance, each lost in their own silent sea. The strain is a palpable thing, a heavy weight in the silence between their infrequent clipped words. He never talks about it, she thinks. The old resentment a dull throb. He just sits there, locked inside himself. He is remembering the sound of small feet on the stairs, the way a tiny hand felt wrapped around his finger. The raw agony of the beginning has faded, replaced by this profound, crippling despair. It isn't sharp anymore, just endlessly deep. His coping mechanism is withdrawal, retreating into the fortress of his own mind, where the memories are safe but also suffocating. He can't talk about it. The words would crumble in his throat, bringing back the unbearable keen of that first night. He sees her across the room, a ghost in their shared grief, and a wave of sorrow washes over him, for the child, for her, for the life they lost, for the people they stopped being. The air between them feels colder than the air outside. A sudden, sharp noise from the street below pierces the heavy silence, a car horn blaring, an unwelcome intrusion from the world that kept turning without them. He flinches, his eyes flicking towards the window. What is happening out there? The old house is settling, shifting, years having pressed down on its timbers, but this sound, this faint, persistent tapping, feels wrong, alien to its usual groans. Sunlight slants through the tall front window, illuminating dust motes, dancing in the heavy air, each one a tiny ghost of the past. Alara stands still in the hallway, head cocked, listening. It's coming from the study wall, the one behind the heavy oak desk that has sat there for generations. A cold draft coils around her ankles, inexplicable in the sealed-up room. It is as if the house itself is breathing secrets, whispering of things long buried. She feels a prickle of unease, a feeling that isn't just the draft, but something deeper, an intuition that this isn't just old house noise, but a deliberate signal. What is that? She thinks, her heart picking up a strange rhythm against her ribs. She moves slowly towards the study, the floorboards protesting softly underfoot. The smell of old paper and aged wood is strong here. Comforting, yet suddenly tinged with mystery. The tapping stops as she enters the room, but the draft persists, a cold finger tracing a line along the wall near the fireplace. Her eyes follow the line of the draft, scanning the wood paneling. It looks solid, undisturbed, yet the air here is colder, thinner. She runs her hand along the wall, feeling the raised grain of the wood, the slight unevenness of the panels. It's right here, her gut insists. There's a part that feels different, less solid, hollow. She presses harder, exploring with her fingertips. The panel gives, slightly, a faint scraping sound echoing in the quiet room. A jolt of adrenaline shoots through her. It wasn't just settling, it wasn't just a draft. There's something here. Her breath catches in her throat, a mix of fear and intense curiosity. She pushes again, her muscles tensing, and this time the panel slides, revealing a narrow, dark gap behind the wall. The air rushing out is stale, cold, carrying the scent of forgotten things. It's a hidden space, tucked away, invisible from the outside. The darkness inside is absolute, thick and silent, promising answers she never knew to seek. Her eyes widen, staring into the void, a single ray of sunlight from the window cutting through the dust and landing just at the edge of the opening. highlighting the mystery waiting within. They are working together now, their hands pressing against the stubborn section of wall, the faint scrape of plaster against wood echoing in the quiet house. Sweat beads on his forehead as he heaves, her smaller frame pushing alongside him, their breaths coming in short, sharp gasps. It's resisting, vibrating slightly under their force, but not giving way. A shared glance passes between them, a mix of determination and a growing uncertainty. What if this is just solid wall? What if the feeling, the gut instinct that led them here, is wrong? She shifts her grip, finding a better angle, pressing her shoulder into the resistance. He follows suit, bracing his feet, putting all his weight into it. There's a sudden, protesting groan, deeper this time, followed by a grinding sound. Slowly, grudgingly, a seam appears, widening near the floor. The wall section is tilting inward, revealing nothing but profound darkness beyond. A wave of cold, stale air washes over them, carrying the distinct scent of dust and something else. Something dry and aged, like old paper and forgotten wood. They pause, hesitating on the threshold of this newly revealed void. Trepidation prickles their skin. This isn't just another room. It feels like stepping into a different time entirely. He is feeling a tightness in his chest, a primal urge to retreat, yet curiosity holds him fast. She is trembling slightly, not from exertion, but from the sheer, heavy silence emanating from the opening. It's swallowing the light from the hallway, creating an inky blackness that seems absolute. Taking a tentative step forward, he reaches an arm into the darkness, feeling nothing but empty space and the rough edge of the opening. A cascade of dust motes, disturbed by the sudden air movement, dance in the faint light from behind them, catching the edge of the opening like tiny shimmering particles of history. The space is deep. He pulls his hand back, turning to look at her. Her eyes are wide, reflecting the darkness. A silent question hangs between them. Do they go in? It feels wrong to enter, like disturbing a long sleep, but leaving it hidden now feels impossible. This hidden space in their home is pulling them forward, promising secrets long kept. The air feels heavy, thick with the weight of years of stillness. As their eyes adjust slightly to the periphery of the darkness, the faintest outline of something large and still begins to take shape within the gloom, a shadow hinting at what lies waiting just beyond the threshold. Stepping over the threshold, she is moving into air thick with the smell of dust and forgotten time. The hidden room is small, cramped, stacked high with things, a jumble of boxes and draped sheets covering indistinct shapes. Dust motes are dancing like tiny, frantic stars in the thin beam of light piercing from the slightly ajar door. Her hand is trailing along the rough wooden wall as she navigates the tight space, eyes scanning the silent relics. There is a musty quiet here, a profound stillness that speaks of years untouched. Her heart is pounding, a frantic drum against her ribs. She is searching, knowing instinctively what she is looking for. Piles of old blankets, moth-eaten fabric. But then her gaze lands on a wooden crate in the corner, slightly apart from the others. Kneeling down, she is pushing aside a brittle, faded cloth. Beneath it, a different kind of treasure reveals itself. Not just random junk, but things that feel deliberately placed, saved. Her fingers are tracing the worn cover of a small, leather-bound book, a diary. Her own childhood handwriting, a sprawling, unsure script, is visible on the title page. Sarah. The name is echoing in the sudden silence of her mind. She is pulling it out, along with another, and then a stack of papers beneath them. Drawings, crumpled, vibrant, filled with the wild energy of a child's imagination. There is a picture of a lopsided house, stick figures holding hands, a bright, impossible sun. She is sifting through them, a wave of overwhelming emotion, washing over her, pulling her under. It is like opening a portal directly into the heart of the little girl she was, a Sarah she had buried deep, plastered over with layers of cynicism and forced composure. Nostalgia is a sweet, sharp ache in her chest. Profound sadness is following close behind, a heavy blanket settling on her shoulders. Why were these hidden? Why this secret room? Each drawing, each clumsy entry in the diaries, is a whisper from a lost life, a life she barely remembers living. She is seeing this is something different, something she didn't know about Sarah, something that feels like a tightly held fear captured on the page, hinting at a conversation she wasn't meant to hear, a person she wasn't meant to see, something buried deeper than just these items. Dust motes dance in the solitary shaft of light, slicing through the grimy window pane, illuminating the room's stillness. He is moving slowly now, his fingers tracing the edges of forgotten boxes stacked high, the air thick with the smell of old paper and disuse. Each item he touches feels heavy, with unspoken stories, a physical weight pressing down on his chest. He's hoping, always hoping, to find a trace, any trace, something that screams Sarah in this silent space. His hand slides under a pile of old clothes on a dusty shelf, his knuckles bumping against something hard, square, and metallic. A jolt goes through him. Not fabric, not wood, something else entirely. He's pulling it out carefully, the dust clinging to its surface like a second skin. It's an old, portable tape recorder, its plastic casing scratched, the buttons worn smooth from use. It feels cool and solid in his hand, a forgotten relic amidst the chaos of the room. A recorder. His mind races, a sudden rush of adrenaline chasing away the fatigue. Why would she have this? When did she use it? A knot is tightening in his stomach as he looks at it, hope and dread swirling together. Is it empty? Is it broken? Or does it hold her voice? Does it hold the answers he's been searching for in every corner, under every surface? He's tilting it towards the light, trying to decipher the faded labels, his thumb instinctively finding the play button, worn down almost to illegibility. He hesitates, his heart pounding against his ribs. This isn't just an object. It feels like a direct line to a moment frozen in time, a connection to the Sarah who is still here, grappling with whatever made her leave. The room seems to hold its breath with him, the silence amplifying the frantic beat of his own pulse. He is wiping the dust away gently, revealing the aged metal grates of the small speaker. A cassette tape is visible inside, a dark rectangular shape waiting to speak. He needs power. He needs to hear. He needs to know what secrets this small forgotten machine is guarding. What message from the past is waiting to break the silence? He's carefully turning the recorder over in his hands, searching for a battery compartment, a port, anything that will bring it to life. The weight of it feels immense now, a pivotal point in the long, arduous search. His gaze is fixed on the tape inside, the magnetic ribbon holding potential echoes of Sarah's last thoughts or intentions. A voice that could finally cut through the mystery surrounding her departure. He is looking around the room, searching for a power source, his movements becoming more urgent, the anticipation building to an almost unbearable peak. The device is small, cold in their hand, but the voice spilling from it is anything but. It's Sarah's voice, faint but clear, thick with an emotion that twists in the gut. Not sadness, not exactly, but a weariness so profound it feels heavy in the air. Or perhaps it's the fragile parchment, her hurried script blurring slightly, carrying the weight of her unspoken truth. Each word lands like a soft blow, resonating with a deep, aching empathy. The world outside the small room shrinks, the distant city hum fading as her quiet confession fills the space. She isn't talking about running to something, they realize. She is describing running from a pressure that felt like a physical constraint, tightening around her spirit until breath itself became difficult. She paints a picture not with harsh accusations, but with the gentle, heartbreaking strokes of someone who felt their light being systematically dimmed. It wasn't a sudden break, but a slow, suffocating erosion of her joy, her aspirations, her very sense of self. She speaks of a shadow cast long over her days, a constant, critical gaze that made every step feel wrong, every dream feel foolish. It's clear now. Her departure wasn't recklessness, but a desperate act of self-preservation, a frantic search for air before she was completely submerged. The source of the tension clarifies, not as a single explosive event, but as a relentless, insidious force. It is the weight of suffocating control, the stifling of independence, the subtle and not so subtle undermining of her worth. This wasn't just disagreement, it was dominion, and the individual responsible is beginning to take shape in the listener's mind, not as a caricature, but as the architect of this quiet despair. A figure whose presence, implied through Sarah's trembling words or hurried writing, generated the unbearable pressure that ultimately pushed her to disappear. A tremor runs through their hands, clutching the device or the paper. It's a mix of sorrow for Sarah and a burgeoning anger towards the one who inflicted this. The empathy washes over them, fierce and protective. This wasn't Sarah being willful. This was Sarah breaking free from a cage. The audio crackles slightly, or the ink seems to deepen on the page, marking the moment the antagonist is truly identified as the central conflict. Not just the reason Sarah left, but the obstacle that must now be confronted. A cold certainty settles in. Understanding Sarah's pain is only the first step. The next is understanding the one who caused it. A thick, suffocating silence fills the room, heavier than the grief moments ago. Sarah's words hang in the air, sharp and shattering. The parents, moments before slumped in desolate sorrow, are suddenly rigid. Their tear-streaked faces freeze, eyes wide, mouths slightly agape. It's a tableau of absolute shock. The deep, soul-aching ache of loss is still there, a dull throb beneath the surface. But another feeling is rapidly surging, scalding hot. Disbelief twists their features, struggling against the horrifying truth they are processing. How could this be real? How could this person? The blood starts pounding in their ears, drowning out the quiet hum of the refrigerator from the kitchen. A tremor runs through a hand resting on the table, fingers curling into a tight fist. The air feels charged, suddenly brittle and thin, hard to draw into their lungs. Their bodies are coiled, tense. The slowness of grief evaporates. And if it's who Sarah says it is, if it's someone they knew, someone they perhaps even trusted, the betrayal is a physical blow, a sharp, incapacitating agony slicing through the numbness. The weight of that specific treason is crushing, yet it fuels a fire unlike anything they've ever felt. Anger, cold and pure initially, is quickly becoming a roaring inferno. It consumes the edges of their grief, sharpening their focus. Their expressions harden, jawlines tightening, eyes narrowing from pools of sadness into points of burning intensity. They are no longer passive recipients of sorrow. A fierce, protective instinct surges, powerful and unwavering. They are seeing the past through a horrifying new lens, replaying interactions, searching for missed signs, For warnings they failed to heed. The injustice of it all is a bitter taste on their tongue. Their thoughts are racing now, disjointed fragments of shock, pain, and mounting. The room feels smaller, charged with their potent, rising fury. A low, guttural sound escapes one of them, a sound of raw pain transforming into simmering vengeance. They exchange a look, a silent understanding passing between them. The pain is still immense, but it is now a weapon, sharp and ready. They are no longer just mourning. They are preparing for battle. The path ahead is clear, carved out by their explosive anger and fierce resolve. The screen's cold light reflects in their widened eyes. Sarah's whispered words, amplified by the speakers, solidify into a name. It isn't a stranger's name. It's a name they know, a name that sits heavy and wrong in the quiet room. They are hearing the identity of the person who has been weaving this web around their daughter. The knot tightens in the pit of their stomachs. Betrayal, a chilling understanding of proximity. His character emerges from the fragmented message, manipulative, calculating, someone who carefully isolates and controls. The connection is subtle, insidious, built over time under their noses, unnoticed until now. He isn't just a bully, he is a predator, patiently cornering his prey. A wave of protective fury surges through them, raw and hot. Grief is momentarily pushed aside, replaced by a fierce, burning need for justice, for retribution. They are no longer just mourning, they are strategizing. Their movements become purposeful, sharper. Dad is pushing away from the table, pacing slowly, his jaw tight. Mom is staring intently at the laptop, her fingers hovering over the keyboard, as if ready to strike. The air crackles with a new energy, the hunt. They understand they can't confront him blindly. They need proof, undeniable evidence that links him to Sarah's suffering, that backs up her digital confession. His face, now conjured in their minds, feels sinister. Every past interaction replayed and scrutinized for hidden malice. The initial plan is forming in hushed, urgent tones. They are talking about digital footprints, about searching online records, social media, anything that might reveal a pattern, a connection, a vulnerability they can exploit. They are discussing reaching out carefully, subtly, to people who might know him, trying to uncover any past incidents, any history of troubling behavior. It's a reconnaissance mission, the first step in building a case, a shield for Sarah, a weapon against him. The room, moments ago heavy with sorrow, now hums with the low thrum of determination. They are moving from passive victims of fate to active agents of justice. The task feels monumental, daunting, but seeing his identity illuminated pushes away hesitation. They are focused, their shared purpose a lifeline in the storm. The quiet room, usually filled with their shared silence of grief, is now alive with the quiet clicking of keys, the soft murmur of strategy, and the unspoken promise to make him pay. They are searching, digging, looking for the first thread to pull. The quiet hum of the library presses in, a stark contrast to the storm raging inside them. Sarah's parents sit across from Mrs. Evans, a retired teacher, her face etched with a mix of weariness and reluctant concern. Dust motes dance in the late afternoon sun slanting through the tall windows, illuminating the anxiety clinging to the air. They are leaning forward, their voices low, urgent, pushing past the teacher's initial hesitation. Mrs. Evans is twisting her hands together in her lap, her gaze flitting between their desperate faces and the worn wooden table. She knew Sarah. Everyone knew Sarah, the bright, quiet girl. But she also knew the shadows that sometimes fell over the school halls, shadows cast by calculated actions. A deep sigh escapes her lips, a sound heavy with past burdens. She begins to speak, her voice barely a whisper at first, recounting fragments, observations from years ago. She is describing the antagonist not just as a bully, but as someone who moved with a chilling precision, weaving narratives, subtly turning peers against Sarah. It wasn't just random meanness. It was a deliberate, slow erosion of Sarah's world. The parents are listening, their own breathing shallowing with each word. They are seeing the puzzle pieces clicking into place, a horrifying picture forming. A tremor is running through the mother's hand where it rests on the table. She is clenching her fist, knuckles white. The father is nodding slowly, a grim resolve settling onto his features. Mrs. Evans is hesitant again, pausing, looking away towards the rows of silent books. There was something specific, she is saying, something she saw, something that felt significant at the time, but was lost in the chaos of school life until now that they are asking. It was an interaction, a moment right before things seemed to shift dramatically for Sarah. She is describing a specific place on school grounds, a specific afternoon. The details are hazy with time, but the feeling of unease, the look she saw on Sarah's face afterward, those are vivid, sharp. The weight of this new information settles upon them, a crushing revelation. Their internal landscape is shifting from hopeful searching to a terrifying clarity. It wasn't an accident. It was orchestrated. A wave of fierce protective anger is washing over the mother, quickly followed by a profound sadness for the young girl Sarah was, navigating this unseen cruelty alone. The father is feeling a cold, hard determination solidify within him. The information Mrs. Evans is providing isn't just a clue, it's a roadmap, pointing directly towards a hidden truth, a specific event they now need to understand fully. The hushed library suddenly feels charged with unspoken urgency. They are needing to go to that place, to see if the shadows there still hold the answers. Rain lashes against the window panes, a steady rhythm contrasting with the silent intensity filling the room. Papers spread across the worn kitchen table, documents printed, files stacked high. Mark is leaning forward, tracing lines on a complex legal flowchart with his finger. Sarah's mother, Emily, sits opposite him, her eyes scanning a screen displaying news articles and online profiles. They are crafting the Justice Act, meticulously building their strategy piece by piece. The air smells faintly of cold coffee and the metallic scent of the storm outside. They are discussing pathways, weighing options. Legal action is on the table, a slow, arduous climb but potentially definitive. Public exposure feels faster, a way to bring immediate scrutiny, but it carries volatile risks, the potential for backlash or disbelief. They are talking about dismantling a reputation, targeting credibility, isolating the antagonist within their own circles, a subtle but powerful approach, focused on consequences that stick, without resorting to physical threats or illegal acts. This isn't about revenge in the traditional sense. It's about accountability, about making sure this person faces the reality of their actions in a way that impacts their life significantly, forcing them to confront what they did to Sarah. A sudden crack of thunder makes Emily jump, her breath catching. Mark reaches across the table, covering her hand with his. He feels the tremor in her fingers. They are not naive. They understand the power imbalance. The resources the antagonist likely commands. The risks are immense. Financial ruin, damage to their own reputations, the emotional toll of prolonging the fight. Mark is thinking about how exposed they are becoming, peeling back layers of their pain for the world to see. Emily is picturing Sarah's face, the memory a sharp, constant ache that simultaneously fuels their resolve and magnifies their fear of failing her. Mark is scrolling through an online forum, his jaw tightening. He sees comments, dismissive and cruel. about similar situations. The world can be indifferent, even hostile, to victims and their families seeking justice. This is the dramatic moment, the stark visualization of the uphill battle they are facing. It isn't just about the antagonist. It's about navigating a system that often protects the powerful and silences the vulnerable. Doubt flickers across his face. Emily sees it. She looks away from the screen, meeting his eyes across the table. Her expression is weary, etched with sorrow, but beneath the pain, a steel resolve is hardening. She remembers Sarah's laughter, her plans for the future, all extinguished. The emotional climax swells between them, a silent pact renewed. They don't need to speak. They are doing this for Sarah. They will see this through. The risks are terrifying, yes. But the alternative, letting it go, letting the antagonist walk away consequence-free, is unthinkable. A betrayal of everything Sarah was and everything they lost. The plan starts to crystallize. They are identifying the most vulnerable points, the legal leverage they possess, the platforms where public pressure could be most effective. The noise of the rain is fading into the background as the hum of their focused energy fills the room. A specific legal document is highlighted on the screen. A key contact is added to a list. The Justice Act is taking shape, no longer just an idea, but a tangible, calculated process. The first step is becoming clear. The damp chill is seeping into their bones as they sit, hidden by the thick rhododendron bushes near the main pathway. The late afternoon sun is casting long, distorted shadows across the frost-kissed grass. Her fingers are tracing the worn edges of the small burner phone in her lap, her thumb hovering over the send button. His jaw is tight, eyes scanning the entrance to the park cafe across the way, a casual newspaper held low in his hands as a flimsy shield. The low murmur of distant traffic seems deafening in the tense silence between them. He shifts, the gravel crunching softly under his boot, and she flinches, a silent apology passing between them with just a look. This is it, the carefully constructed moment. The message holds the key, a seemingly innocuous piece of information designed to draw him out, to bring him to this specific spot at this precise time. It feels wrong, manipulative, but the image of their child's hurt face is a constant, burning ember pushing back the guilt. Fear is a bitter taste in her mouth, metallic and sharp. What if he sees through it? What if he doesn't come? What if he does, and they aren't ready? A lone dog barks in the distance, a sudden, sharp sound that makes them both jump internally. She is breathing shallowly, watching the small screen, the cursor blinking impatiently. He is leaning slightly forward now, the newspaper forgotten, his gaze fixed on the cafe entrance, waiting for any sign. Every person walking by seems like a potential threat. Every car slowing down, a potential complication. The air feels thin, stretched taut, ready to snap. This isn't them. This elaborate deception, this cold calculation. It feels alien, but it's necessary. Her hand trembles visibly as she finally presses the button. Message sent. The phone screen goes dark. For a second, the world seems to hold its breath. The silence is absolute, broken only by the frantic pounding of her own heart against her ribs. He turns his head slowly, their eyes locking. In his, she sees her own terror mirrored, but also an unwavering resolve, a silent promise that they are in this together, come what may. A shaky breath escapes her lips. There's no turning back now. The bait is cast. They watch, waiting for the line to tighten. The carefully orchestrated presentation is reaching its crescendo in the packed auditorium. A large screen behind the speaker flashes with irrefutable data, synchronized perfectly with the calm, measured voice detailing the antagonist's systematic exploitation. Eyes are fixed, breaths are held. The air crackles with an almost unbearable tension, thick and heavy. Parents Sarah and Tom are sitting near the back, their hands clasped together, knuckles white. Tom is feeling a tremor run through his arm, a mix of fear and exhilaration. Years of planning, quiet gathering, and relentless work are culminating in this single explosive moment. The antagonist, seated conspicuously in the front row, is initially wearing a mask of polite indifference, a practiced sneer playing on their lips. But as the evidence mounts, piece by damning piece, financial records, coded communications, timelines of deliberate harm, the facade begins to crack. A flicker of disbelief crosses their face, then confusion. Their eyes dart around the room, searching for a way out, a denial to grasp onto. The speaker reveals the final piece, a digital ghost they thought was buried forever, shining undeniable light on their actions. A collective gasp ripples through the audience. The antagonist's face contorts, the mask dropping completely to reveal raw, ugly fury beneath. They are half rising from their seat, a strangled sound escaping their throat. Security personnel, already positioned subtly throughout the room as part of the plan, are immediately moving towards them, their movements swift and precise. The antagonist is gesturing wildly, shouting words that are lost in the sudden surge of murmuring voices and shuffling feet. It's a moment of pure, chaotic exposure. Sarah is feeling a surge of adrenaline, watching the scene unfold like a slow-motion movie. It's happening. Justice is finding its path, sharp and undeniable. The immediate consequence is a visceral shockwave. People are turning away from the antagonist in disgust, whispers spreading like wildfire. Their carefully constructed world is collapsing in real time. The foundation built on deceit crumbling spectacularly. The planned legal notices are being served simultaneously, delivered by quiet figures who emerge from the wings, adding a layer of stark formality to the dramatic exposure. The room is now a tableau of stunned faces, the silence that follows the initial outburst even more profound than the tension before. The antagonist is being escorted away, their struggle a pathetic, desperate display against the quiet authority of the security. Sarah and Tom are watching, a wave of complex emotions washing over them, relief mingling with the lingering ache of what led them here. But underneath it all, a deep, quiet satisfaction. The fight isn't entirely over, but the battle line has irrevocably shifted. The path ahead is uncertain, but for the first time in a long time, it is bathed in the clear light of truth. The cold air of the conference room presses in, carrying the fading echoes of raised voices. He stands exposed, his shoulders slumped, the carefully constructed facade crumbling around him. Eyes that once held calculating power now dart nervously, settling on the floor as a quiet, uniformed presence escorts him towards the door. The heavy oak swings open, swallowing him into the sterile hallway, and the click as it closes feels like a final, decisive punctuation mark on years of deceit. They watch him go, Mom and Dad, standing side by side near the large window overlooking the indifferent city. Their bodies are still, but inside, a tempest rages. Mom's hand reaches instinctively for Dad's, their fingers interlocking in a grip that speaks volumes of shared pain and enduring strength. A single tear traces a path down Mom's cheek, catching the weak afternoon light. It's a tear of relief, yes, a purging of pent-up frustration and fear, but also a tear of profound sorrow for the innocence stolen, the opportunities lost, the trust shattered into irreparable fragments. Dad's jaw is tight, his gaze fixed on the closed door, his mind replaying moments, injustices, validating every gnawing doubt they had carried. The truth is out, undeniable and stark, a hard-won victory that tastes bittersweet. They feel the heavy weight lifting, an oppressive burden they hadn't realized the full extent of until it was gone. A wave of validation washes over them. They weren't paranoid. They weren't overprotective. Their child was wronged. This room, stark and functional, now feels less like a battleground and more like a place where a necessary, if painful, operation occurred. The air smells faintly of old paper and ozone. Outside, traffic hums a steady, mundane rhythm, oblivious to the seismic shift that just occurred within these walls. They stand there, the quiet seeping into their bones, a strange mix of exhaustion and cautious hope settling in. It is closure for this specific injustice, a painful chapter finally marked as completed. But the quiet also feels vast, leaving space for the question of what comes next now that the fight is over. The journey of healing stretches out before them. The hum of the engine is a dull throb beneath their quiet breaths, a constant rhythm eating up the miles. The papers from the Justice Act are folded tight in the mother's hands, the address printed starkly on the page, a beacon and a terror. 23 years. 23 years of searching, of dead ends, of aching silence, all condensed into this single road winding before them. Each mile marker passing feels like turning a page on a calendar. Flipping through the lost birthdays, the unseen first steps, the missed milestones. Hope is a fragile bird fluttering in their chests, its wings brushing against the sharp edges of fear. What if she doesn't look like the girl in their fading photographs? What if the life she built doesn't have a place for them? The father's knuckles are white on the steering wheel, his gaze fixed on the horizon, but his mind is a kaleidoscope of memories, a tiny hand gripping his finger, a giggle echoing down a hallway. Tears well in the mother's eyes, blurring the passing landscape, but she refuses to let them fall. Not yet. Not when they are this close. The city begins to sprawl in the distance, a low-slung collection of buildings under a vast, indifferent sky. It's different from home, the air holding the scent of damp earth and distant factories instead of sea salt and pine. Traffic thickens, the rhythm of the journey becoming jerky, punctuated by brake lights and the impatient blare of horns. Their car, a familiar comfort from their old life, feels alien and conspicuous here. They navigate the unfamiliar streets, guided by the GPS voice that feels both clinical and like destiny. The houses grow closer together, older, with peeling paint and overgrown gardens. This is the neighborhood. The anticipation is a physical weight, pressing down on them, making it hard to breathe. Their eyes scan every face on the sidewalk, searching for a flicker of recognition, a ghost of a feature from a child they only knew for a few short years. The street they turn onto is quiet, lined with mature trees casting long shadows. Their hearts are pounding in unison now, a frantic drumbeat accompanying the slowing car. The address is just ahead, a small blue number tacked onto a weathered porch column. A bicycle leans against the house next door. A curtain flutters in an upper window across the street. The air feels thick with suspended time, every sound amplified. The distant siren, the crunch of tires on gravel, the sudden sharp call of a bird overhead. They pull to the curb, the engine finally falling silent. Silence descends, heavy and profound, broken only by their ragged breaths. They are here. The house sits before them, unassuming, holding within it the culmination of their endless search, the unknown outcome hanging heavy in the air. Sarah is walking towards them, the space between her and the two figures shrinking with each hesitant step. Her heart is hammering, a frantic drum against her ribs. Years melt away in the suspended animation of this single moment. She sees her mother's face, etched with time and worry, her father standing stoically beside her, his shoulders trembling slightly. 23 years, a lifetime lost, converging on this single, fraught point. Her mother takes a step forward, then another, her arms already reaching out. Sarah matches her pace, the air thick with unspoken grief and longing. Tears are streaming down her mother's face now, silent rivers carving paths through dust. Her father is openly weeping, the sound a choked sob that tears at Sarah's own carefully constructed composure. She is breaking, the dam of resilience crumbling under the weight of this raw human connection. They meet in the middle of the quiet space, a collision of sorrow and love. Her mother's arms wrap around her, a fierce, trembling hold that pulls her into a chest that smells faintly of lavender and old paper. Sarah clings back, burying her face in her mother's shoulder, the world narrowing to the sound of their mingled sobs. Her father's strong arms encompass them both, a protective, anchoring embrace. They are a knot of three, bound by absence and presence, pain and profound relief. Sarah, her mother whispers, her voice thick with tears. "Oh, my Sarah." "Mom," Sarah chokes out, the word feeling alien and familiar all at once. "Dad." The embrace lasts an eternity and a fleeting second. The warmth, the physical reality of them, is overwhelming. It is proof that they are here, that she is here. The air is charged with decades of missed birthdays, holidays, quiet moments, and loud arguments that never happened. It is a homecoming drenched in both relief and the searing awareness of what was lost. They are holding on to each other, as if afraid one might vanish again. This is not a magic fix. The scars are deep, the journey back to normalcy, a long, winding road. But in this moment, amidst the tears and the trembling, there is an undeniable ember of hope flickering. They are together. The first, fragile thread of rebuilding their broken family is being woven, here in this embrace, under the watchful, silent sky. Special epilogue. Later, they are sitting together. The initial storm of emotion subsided into a quiet, shared space. Her mother holds her hand, tracing the lines on her palm, as if rediscovering a lost map. Her father sits slightly apart, watching them, a new kind of peace, softening the hard edges of his face. The silence is not empty, but full, filled with the echo of shared history, the unspoken questions, and the hesitant beginnings of trust. Sarah looks from one face to the other, seeing not just the parents she lost, but the people they have become in her absence, and the person she has become in theirs. The journey ahead is daunting, a landscape scarred by time and separation, but the path is illuminated, however faintly, by the light of their reunion. This is not an ending, but a profound, difficult, and hopeful beginning. She is leaving now, the goodbye softer this time, filled with promises of calls and visits, the future stretching out, not as an abyss, but as a possibility. Walking away, the weight of 23 years doesn't vanish, but it shifts. It becomes not just a burden of loss, but a foundation upon which something new can be built. The path ahead is uncertain, filled with the quiet work of reconciliation, the difficult conversations, and the slow process of becoming a family again. The lightness she expected isn't quite there. Instead, there is a dull ache, a residue of sorrow that clings stubbornly despite the joy of reunion. She carries the warmth of their embrace, the scent of her mother's lavender, the rough feel of her father's hand, but also the heavy understanding of the chasm that time has carved. The world outside feels a little less sharp, colors a little muted, as if the intensity of the past hour has drained some of the external vibrancy. There's a quiet hum of anxiety beneath the surface of her relief, a fear of the unknown challenges that lie ahead in bridging the gap. It's a strange mix of emotions, the profound gratitude of finding them, the quiet sorrow for the lost time, and the underlying unease about navigating the future. It's not the triumphant ending of a fairy tale, but the complex, messy reality of healing. She steps out into the evening air, the breeze cool on her face, a solitary figure moving towards an uncertain dawn, carrying the fragile hope of a future she is only just beginning to understand.